You should, because everyone else does. This woman is, this woman got me, I feel like, to where I am today. She opened the door for me to this whole new world. And it makes me want to sing a whole new world. But it really did. She made me realize what's important in life. And thanks for this woman, Gail Williamson. Gail Williamson. Hello.
David.
Hello, Gail. I was talking to several people who, well, probably everybody who I've interviewed, we know. And a lot of them, were saying Gail Williamson, Gail Williamson. And I was saying, let's just call her Gail, like Cher, Madonna, Gail. First name kind of thing. So 20 years. I've known you like 20 years?
Probably a little longer, I would think. But yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for 30.
Right.
And I'm not sure you were, that would have made Blair like 21 if it was 20 years. And I'm sure you met him before he was an adult. I think you met him like 17 or 18, didn't you?
Right. Well, I went to Mary Ring's Born to Act Players. God, I think 1996.
Okay.
95. So that's probably around when I met you. So it has been more than 20 years.
Yeah. So Blair would have been a teenager. That's about what I remember.
Now, when did you start working for the Media Access Office?
I started volunteering in about 1992. Blair had his first commercial in 1991, right. And I couldn't find an agent that wanted to represent a child with Down syndrome. And he did such a good job, and he had so much fun, and I saw that this was, something I could do for him. And so I found the Media Access Office. I was looking for agent representation, and no one was interested. And when I got to the Media Access Office, and I thought this was the place, they're looking for actors with disabilities to get them in television and film. This will be the right place. And they said, oh, we're part of the Employment Development Department, and we work with adults, so we're working with 18 and older. So I said, okay, can I volunteer and develop a children's division? They said, sure, go on ahead. And so that's what I did. And at the time, I was a decorative painter. And I remember one day being on 3 levels of scaffold in an entry, painting clouds on the ceiling of this house. And I had a cell phone the size of a shoebox that I was on, getting kids to go on an audition, little girls in wheelchairs to go on an audition. Yeah. So that's how long ago I started volunteering and doing it.
Wow. But, it was interesting yesterday when I was talking to you, and even before Blair, you have been connected to the community in some way.
Yeah, I had an interesting introduction to disability. When I was a little girl, my uncle was a quadriplegic, and my aunt took him everywhere. I mean, this man went to Mexico for the summer, and she had this van and these ramps, and she would get him everywhere, and she had him on this amazing schedule so that they could do all these great things. And so I grew up with Uncle Doug. And then down the street from me, I had a very close girlfriend, and her little brother, Carrie, had Down syndrome. And I never heard the words Down syndrome. I just knew Carrie was different. And so I grew up playing with Carrie. There was a little girl in our school who was a hand amputee, and I used to teach a dance class during recess. And I remember I was always by her because the other children were fearful. They didn't know quite what to do without a hand there if we were doing a circle dance or something. So I became very close with this little girl. A young man with cerebral palsy in our group, a young man who was having night seizures, and I ended up tutoring him in 5th and 6th grade. So this was just kind of my world. It was all inclusive. And I was also in a very ethnically inclusive community. So I grew up with a lot of inclusiveness, and it was a lovely way to grow.
Yeah. Wow, what a wonderful way. It shows the way you are with everybody, the way you were brought up. And I think sometimes it's in, you know, even before you're born or something, some people say your certain things are within you as well. So it's a mix of all that that brings you to what you do.
Sort of the nurture and nature.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Nurture and nature. Nurture, yeah. And you know, I don't know if I've ever seen you not giving up your time and working for the betterment of the community.
Oh, come on, you've heard me go, oh, David, that's going to give me so much work. I think I said it to you today. So.
Well, yes, and then you went, oh, yeah.
Make this happen, yeah.
But I think that's human. That, you know, it's sort of, I do it too. I like go, okay.
Well, as I get older, there's more of, oh my gosh, you know, how much time do I have and what do I want to put into that? But yes, when I was younger, absolutely, everything was yes. Tommy once said he was going to tattoo no on my forehead so I could just do this, you know, and I wouldn't have to have the words go over, you know, through my lips.
Oh
so, yeah, I'm pretty much, yeah, let's make it happen kind of person.
You see, I pictured you with one of those pictures, the no hate, you know.
Yeah.
What differences have you seen from when I first met you years ago, over 20?
In you? What differences have I seen in you?
No, not in me. What differences have you seen in me? This is all about me, Gail. Now, what differences have you seen in the community, the advancements toward a more accessible and balanced life for people with disabilities in the entertainment industry, from 20 years ago to now?
Okay. Well, even before 20, let's talk even back, you know, 30 years ago. I think I was mentioning to you the other day that in 1991, all the pilots not the pilots, but the shows that got picked up, one series had one person of color in it, if I recall correctly. Now, the number of series we have nowadays, you know, there were 4 channels, and of these 4 channels and how many new series they had, there was one person of color. And it was a very male, white dominated world on TV and film. There were of course other people, but not very much. And at this point, the Grand Coalition was put together, which I think was headed up by the NAACP. This is all, you know, back 30 years ago, so I'm not right on everything maybe. But the NAACP put it together and invited the various entertainment ethnic groups to get together and decide what they would do to make sure this didn't happen again. And at the time, disability and I believe the LGBTQ community were not invited to the table. Just we weren't considered when they talked about diversity at that point. But what the Grand Coalition did that was very helpful is they established with all of the studios a vice president level in charge of diversity. And this was a wonderful thing. So when I started actually working with the Media Access Office in 92, probably about 94 by the time I really started working with them instead of just volunteering my time, one of my mandates was to get out there and get us included in these diversity programs at these studios. And ABC welcomed us with open arms. They were lovely. CBS took a little longer, a little more persuasion, but it happened. And Fox and NBC came along. And so that's how we got added to the diversity programs is, you know, slowly, one by one, getting picked up and brought in. So that was one difference, was that, first of all, we weren't seen as a part of the diversity scene at all 30 years ago. We weren't even considered that. Television started to pick up for a while. I mean, Norman Lear did great stuff for us. Look at Jay.
He was probably the producer with the one guy, African American, right?
Probably, if we go back and look, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, he did great work for us. And then kind of Hollywood took off with the LGBTQ community in TV and film, very strong. And I attribute them pulling on ahead because there were executives from the LGBTQ community in studios, where I don't think we had the representation for people with disabilities. But they threw us a line They've been wonderful. GLAAD has always done a report on performers with disabilities as well as their own report every year when they do the new shows. They've been great. Wonderful mentors to the community of people with disabilities. So here we are to where we are today. I would say in the last 5 years, we've had at least, if not more movement than we had in the first 25. I think that now it's moving very fast. I think we have a few things that have made that happen. One is that we now have people in executive positions who went to school in full inclusive educations and knew people with disabilities. Not until 1975, I might be a year off, 1970, did we have Public Law 94142 that guaranteed an inclusive education for children with disabilities. Prior to that, that was not guaranteed. So many people didn't understand knowing someone with a disability. They didn't have someone in their life with a disability. And if you don't have it in your life, and if you're not exposed to it, let's go back and talk about the fact we've all been told, don't stare, don't point, don't look.
Right.
So we've taught to ignore people with disabilities. You know, when you were a child out with your mother in the market and there was someone with a disability and you were looking at them, your mother basically just said to you, don't stare, don't look, don't, you know. So we all were taught to do that.
Right.
I
never thought of that, but it's so true.
Yeah, yeah. So we weren't told, well, go ask that person about them or go meet that person. We were told, don't look at them, don't. So anyway, that's how we were brought up, a lot of us. So now we've got these people in executive positions that have started to be, you know, more connected to the community. We have, if before, let's say there was a child with a disability that was home with mom and dad was at work. Back in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, mom took care of that child and dad went to work. Now in the 2000s, you know, my son will take a day off work just to go on his daughter's checkup with the pediatrician annually. Fathers are more invested in their child's raising now. So I think an executive I'm talking male specific, there's female executives too, but whichever the executive is that's in an office is more apt to do more care of their child than they did back years gone by, 70s, 80s. You know, they're more involved in that child's life. I think it's more in their mind. You know, we've got social media now to talk about the connection we have. My son with Down syndrome was born. Many of the books, this was in 79, many of the books available to me were about mongoloids. They were not about children with Down syndrome. And at the library, at the public library, that was my choices of what I could look at. And to meet with other parents, I would go to a church basement where we would have mimeograph sheets of paper with information about Down syndrome on it.
Right.
Now, you know, I open my internet. If I look at Google News and I put in Down syndrome, I get the prom queen and the cheerleaders, and I get, you know, somebody just graduated college and somebody works for Bo and Biddy's, you know, coffee in North Carolina. And those are the stories I get now. It's a very, very different world for people with disabilities. And I know I'm sort of internalizing it to my own experience.
No, that's the way it
is. I know that experience has happened on levels with people who are deaf, people who are blind, people in wheelchairs. You know, across the board, it's changed like that. I'm very sure.
So in 79, it was mongoloid, and then it went on to the R word.
Well, we were Down syndrome, but the books that had been written were still, you know, caught back in history. Any new book in 79 was saying Down syndrome.
Yeah.
But old books were what were available to me. Blair was diagnosed with mental retardation when he was a child. He had educable mental retardation. Now, mental retardation is not so much a diagnosis anymore, but because it was a diagnosis is why the R word is so offensive. You were actually taking retardation, which was in his diagnosis, and making that the brunt of the joke. So that's part of why the R word is so offensive. It's very nice that we've come a ways. I mean, I remember when we were out, you know, picketing Tropic Thunder and the big fear was that they were bringing into American culture and the world's culture this don't go full retard. I mean, those were things that you knew you would hear again. And that was the big complaint, was the overuse of the word just to rile people, and creating nomenclature fall into jargon that we didn't want, you know. So yeah, boy, took a turn there, didn't I? But yeah, that was why the fight was so big. And I think we're past some of that. I can remember back around the time of Tropic Thunder, where I talked to someone, and I don't remember what studio it was, about broadcasting standards. And at that time, a character could use the word retard in a show, but they had to get their comeuppance in the same act. They had to get some kind of, you know, you shouldn't have said that, or something had to happen to flip the story in the same act. They couldn't wait till the second act to address it. It had to be addressed in the same act.
Well, what I always remember, people, whether it was the Media Access Office, which I met you and then Gloria Castaneda, who ran it, who was amazing and wonderful. And then I remember you at other places that you worked at, and people always called you to ask for advice as the years went on. Is this correct? Is that correct? You were the go-to person.
Yeah, I guess so, in a lot of ways. But also, if I didn't have the answer, I had the connections to find an answer, is why. It wasn't that I was all-knowing.
Right.
It was that I had the right Rolodex. People know what a Rolodex is nowadays?
I don't know if they...
I have numbers in my phone.
It's like, we'll be back, and we'll be... I don't know, I found this. So I don't know, it reminded me of dinosaurs, so... This has no connection to anything.
Absolutely, you got that out for my interview. It makes perfect sense.
Well, how we started the dinosaur age, and now we're, you know, advancements.
We are, and you know what we've been asking and fighting and wanting all along is, in advancements, is consideration for actors with disabilities to just play people, and to not have to have the story, you know, to not only be invited to be a part of the story if the story's about their disability.
Right.
We just want people that get to be there. And we're getting there. That's happening. I mean, we have now, as a talent agent for Kazarian, Majors, Ruskin and Associates, and I head their diversity department, which just covers people with disabilities. I know diversity is vague, and we get people submitting with ethnic diversities and LGBT community. But I still only want to call it diversity because that's a department we need to be in. We need to be in everybody's diversity mind, so we're going to continue to call it that. But it's specifically disability. But I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, I find it amazing and wonderful that you keep going. And it's taught me in a way too. You know, I started as an actor, and I still like to act, but it's not my number one thing. I mean, when I walked into that Mary Ring's Born to Act Players, it opened up. And then I assisted with her at Media Access, and there's another door. And I realized that I really, you know, a lot of times we feel that we fight some stuff in life, like, no, I want this, not this, but this is, you're going with it. So what?
It's organic, very organic.
Yes. And I'm realizing, actually, in a way, right now, that I did go with it. I didn't fight as much with it. There were times, but I still love to act. I still will. I still love to produce, but my focus is on this extended family. And it gives me so much joy. I get so much joy turning on the TV, and there's Cole Sebus, or there's Jamie Brewer. I mean, it's like, you know, and they have turned into my favorite actors. My favorite performers. And, you know, of course I grew up loving Dustin Hoffman, and I still do, but this is
authentic.
What?
Authentic.
Yeah, authentic and wonderful actors and performers.
You know, David, you won me over, and we've discussed this before, but I don't know if it's the moment, if I've told you it's the moment you won me over, but which you were easy to love. But do you remember when you did Annie Hall with Amy at Contact Players?
Yes.
And she has you come to save her from the spider. And as you come through the door to make your announcement that you have been, you know, chasing spiders all these years, Amy announces to everyone, oh, you guys, he's been killing spiders for 20 years. And the look on your face when your line was gone, and then when your recovery to get right back into it with her, it was like, this guy can do anything. As my shot, because he can handle someone who will never be an actor. We knew Amy wasn't going to be an actor, but this was a wonderful, important class for her. But you can make it something. You can make it the most entertaining scene of the night, because she went off and you went off. You just were David with her, you know?
Well, and yeah, it was, you know, the script was out the window. So that's where the improv comes in. And it's like, it was like, get over here. We got to take care of the spiders or whatever it was. That was one of my favorite moments on stage.
It's got to be a life-defining moment for you, because it defined what you could do with this community.
Wow. Interesting. God, you're making me realize stuff as we're in this moment. I'm like,
take a breath, David. Take your next breath.
I've got to do that too. I've got to finish that film. What is your dream in life? Actually, before that, what do you want for your next breath?
You know, it's really interesting, because in a lot of ways, we've gotten there. There's more to do. There's plenty of work to do, and a lot of people need to come behind us and do it. But as I'm getting to an age where I'm thinking about my retirement, and I'm realizing that if there's a group gathering and I can't get there to have my voice heard, I can take that breath, because there are so many voices now. There's so many people that have come to the table, and it's important to have every single one of them. I'm so excited that we have this large group of, there's the Performing Arts Studio West and the Born Jack Players, and I'm going to miss someone if I name them all, but you know, Easter Seals and Respectability and what's Terry's program, Lights, Camera, Access, you know, all these different media access awards. All these groups are coming to the table now, and they're sharing this vision. And we've got the WGA committee, and we've got, you know, it's a SAG Performers with Disabilities Committee. People are speaking up. It wasn't that way when I started. There were a few of us, and if one of us couldn't make it, we'd, you know, get on the phone and try to make sure one of the others could. But now I just go, so part of me goes, I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. There's disciples now. There's people out there doing the work, and there are executives now who are on. There are people who believe in us, who aren't just the people in the trenches. It's the people with the power that believe in us now. And that's pretty miraculous.
Yeah. And we see it. It's like popcorn in a way of the certain roles that are starting to come out, and they just like, it's a forest of fruit. And if that makes sense, it's like, here is something to make us all grow. Because as I say, and I've said this many times, we're all on this one little blue marble, you know, might as well work together.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, very much so. I mean, and you know, here we are in the middle of this virus, you know, doing this interview, and look how cool it is that you've developed this and you're doing all these interviews at this time. And I think it's kind of shown us what the internet and all has done for people with disabilities. I mean, this is universal design. No one in a wheelchair has to figure out how to get in the second story building to do this interview, because there's no elevator, you know? It's nobody has to figure out how to get the interpreter to show up on time, because they can just go in on Zoom and be added to the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting how these times are pushing us to accept and embrace universal design that we thought was, you know, we thought was something totally different. It's like the curb cuts, you know, oh, those are for the wheelchairs. Well, how many women with strollers and how men with strollers, how many people with strollers, how many business people with their rolling briefcases, how many of us with luggage appreciate those curb cuts? You know, it became universal design, and I think that's what we're seeing now for our community.
Well, I was telling Mary too, that, you know, Mary Rings.
Yeah.
I was telling her that people for years have been saying, can you put Meet the Biz online? Can you do, you know? And I went, yeah. And I just never got to it. Well, this, thank God, thank God John Paces said, we're going online with Performing Arts Studio West. And he pushed, and the circumstances pushed me to do this. And at first I was going to do just acting classes, and it was like, when I do acting classes, I really like, I was okay, try that again. Okay, I like the clay. Well, at first we were just doing the interviews, or at first we were just doing classes to the camera. So I was thinking, well, wait a minute, I do Meet the Biz. So it happened finally.
Well, and I bet Mary had a few things to say about her being pushed into doing Zoom with Born to Act players. She was very resistant at first.
Yes, she was talking about that. She just didn't want to do it, huh? It's like, yeah. No, how can I teach an acting? But it opens you up. You're giving a task, and then you go for it, and you find a way to do it, whatever it is in life. What's your biggest joy?
My biggest joy? Oh, is to turn on the TV and see somebody I had nothing to do with casting that has a disability. Ah! That means it's happening broader than us. You know, my whole goal for my department is to make it go away, which sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But and my bosses know that. The whole goal is to make it so right for everyone to be fully included in every agency that you don't need a diversity department. You don't need somebody advocating for these clients, that they are going to get covered, and they're going to get covered fairly. They're not going to end up in an agency just pigeonholed as the person in a wheelchair. Because we're saying, hey, can that attorney be in a wheelchair? You know, we're not waiting for the disability roles to come along. For our talent that are SAG members and have good reels, we're going to push them for all those typical roles. And so, anyway, the biggest joy is seeing that it's happening. That other, you know, when someone says to me, oh, I saw a kid in the Target ad, is it yours? And I go, no. And they go, oh. And I go, that's so cool. Because that means somebody else reps a kid and put him on the Target ad. I'm thrilled. Because that's, you know, if I took everybody and we just kept them, you know, it would never happen. It needs to be full inclusion. Everybody needs to be represented.
Everybody working, and that's why I love, you know, what I do with Meet the Biz is bringing inclusion films and actors for autism and Born to Act players and Performing Arts Studio West and all the different groups, as well as going out to the Gay and Lesbian Center. We did classes there, and at Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild, just going everywhere to have that inclusion. And we all, like you said, we all do our thing, and if we all work together,
it's a great puzzle that's creating a beautiful picture right now, you know?
Yeah.
We just keep adding more puzzle pieces and growing it.
So one last thing I wanted to talk about was Blair, because who? I know, Gail, Blair. Because beside, you know, opening the window and the door to two new worlds for me, you introduced me to this amazing so-called brother of mine, extended family, that you called me up, hey, you want to come on the set with us and coach and this and that, and it's just been again another okay, and such, it keeps me going.
That's great. Well, you know, anytime I'm doing something like this, it's like, well, I sit here as Gail, just Gail, only because there's a Blair. I had a child with an extra chromosome, and for some reason that kid had an extra acting gene. I don't know where it came from, don't know how it got there, but he was a born actor, and we saw that very, very early on. Yeah. And he led me to this. Had I not, I often say, I followed my son's passion and stumbled on my destiny.
Wow.
I would not be here without him. Any of those accolades and awards and thank yous that I get, it all goes back to the fact that he came along, he had some sort of gift to be an actor, and he introduced me to a world that I would never know without him. You know, if he didn't have that chromosome, if he didn't have whatever it is that he has that makes him understand what a note means when you tell him to do it this way or that way, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't know you. You know, none of this would have happened.
Wow.
And how can that not be a great thing? How can that not be a great thing?
It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
So I, you know, owe a lot to him. I owe a lot to my entire family. I mean, my husband has put up with me loving this passion and pushing for it, and he's supported me through it. My other son has been there for us and you know, supported his brother and loved his brother through it. My nieces that all came to live with us supported Blair. I can't tell you how many times I was working and somebody had to be here and somebody had to be there, and some kid drove him across to Hollywood for me to meet him for his audition there. You know, he's kind of the glue in the family.
Wow. Well, and the extended family as well.
Exactly. He's brought all the people like you and stuck you right to us.
I love it. Thank you, Gail Williamson.
Thank you, David Zimmerman. It's David Zinderman.
Zinderman, right.
That's what Blair calls you.
Writer, producer, actor, director, Blair Williamson.
Mm. There he is.
Hey, look at that. What a beautiful portrait.